Imagine watching a football match with 500 players. No referee, no rules, no stadium, no sidelines, no substitutions, and no guarantee that everyone would survive. Sounds impossible. But for hundreds of years, this was exactly how football was played. People fought through streets, climbed over fences, smashed through crowds. Entire villages battled over a single ball. Broken bones were common, serious injuries were expected, and sometimes people died. In fact, the game became so violent that kings tried to ban it again and again and again. Yet somehow, this chaotic and dangerous activity would eventually evolve into the world's most popular sport. A sport watched by billions. A sport that stops entire nations. A sport called football. Before we continue, comment below. Would you play ancient football if there were no rules? And if you enjoy videos that make you question everything you thought you knew, subscribe now because we post a new fascinating documentary every week. Now let's travel back nearly 1,000 years to a time when football looked nothing like the game we know today. The first footballs. Most people assume football began in England, but football-like games are much older. More than 2,000 years ago, ancient China had a game called Cuju. Players kicked a leather ball through a small opening. No hands allowed, no tackling, no giant crowds fighting in the streets. Compared to what would come later, it was surprisingly civilized. Ancient Greece had similar games. Ancient Rome played ball games too. As empires expanded, different versions spread across Europe. But something strange happened when these games reached medieval England. The sport transformed. And not in a good way. Football became bigger, rougher, and far more dangerous. Football without rules. Imagine waking up in a medieval English village. It's a holiday. Church bells ring. People gather in the town square. Hundreds of men arrive. Some are farmers. Some are blacksmiths. Some are fishermen. Others are simply looking for excitement. Then someone throws a ball into the crowd, and chaos begins. There are no teams of 11 players. There might be hundreds, and sometimes even thousands. Entire villages competed against neighboring villages. The goal could be miles away. One village might try to carry the ball to a church. The other village might try to push it to a river. Anything was allowed. Pushing, punching, wrestling, dragging opponents through mud. The only objective was moving the ball forward, no matter what happened. The game often lasted for hours, sometimes all day, and the streets became battlefields. The human stampede. Modern football is carefully organized. Ancient football was not. Imagine hundreds of people charging toward a single ball. Nobody knew where it would go next. The crowd moved like a giant human wave. If you fell down, dozens of people could run over you. If you got trapped against a wall, you could be crushed. Property damage became common. Windows shattered, fences collapsed, market stalls were destroyed, animals escaped, entire streets were left in ruins. For many towns, football day looked more like a riot than a sporting event. Yet people loved it, because for ordinary workers, life was hard. Football offered excitement, competition, pride, and a rare chance to defeat a rival village. Why people got hurt. Ancient football had one major problem. Nobody was trying to make it safe. Today, football has referees, rules, medical staff, security. Ancient football had none of those things. People played on muddy roads, rocky fields, frozen ground, narrow streets, and crowded marketplaces. Players frequently suffered cuts, broken noses, broken arms, broken legs. Some historical records even mention deaths linked to football matches. To medieval people, this wasn't shocking. Life itself was dangerous. Football simply reflected the world they lived in, a world where survival often depended on strength. Eventually, football became such a problem that England's rulers stepped in. One king after another tried to stop it. Why? Because football wasn't just dangerous. It was distracting. England needed soldiers. Soldiers needed archery practice. At the time, archers were one of the country's greatest military advantages. But many young men preferred playing football instead. They spent hours chasing balls instead of practicing with bows and arrows. Kings became furious. In 1314, King Edward II attempted to ban football. Later kings issued similar bans. The message was clear: stop playing football, start training for war. But the bans didn't work. People kept playing, again and again. Football was simply too popular. Not only the ball itself. Even the football was strange. Modern footballs are carefully manufactured. Ancient footballs were often made from animal bladders. Yes, animal bladders, usually from pigs. The bladder would be inflated and covered with leather. The result looked nothing like today's footballs. It bounced unpredictably, it changed shape, and it could burst during matches. Sometimes the ball itself became part of the challenge. Controlling it was difficult. Predicting its movement was almost impossible, which only added more chaos to the game. When football became a problem, as towns grew larger, football became harder to control. Authorities complained constantly. Shopkeepers hated football days. Property owners hated football days. Local officials hated football days. The games blocked roads, damaged buildings, and caused injuries. Imagine trying to run a modern city while thousands of people chased a ball through traffic. That's essentially what some medieval towns experience. Eventually, pressure began growing for change. People wanted football, but they also wanted order. Something had to give. The birth of modern football. In the 1800s, football began transforming. Schools and clubs started creating official rules. For the first time, players agreed on boundaries, team sizes, match durations, and acceptable behavior. Violence slowly decreased. Organization increased. Then came referees, clearly marked fields, standardized equipment, and official competitions. Football stopped being a village-wide battle and became a sport, a real sport. The version we recognize today was finally taking shape. The World Cup revolution fast-forward to the 20th century. Football spreads across continents. Professional leagues emerge. International tournaments appear. Then comes the World Cup. What was once a chaotic medieval game became a global phenomenon. Today, billions of people watch football. Massive stadiums replace muddy streets. Professional athletes replace village mobs. Referees enforce rules. Technology assists decisions. Everything is organized. Everything is controlled. And yet, the passion remains exactly the same. The excitement, the rivalry, the emotion, the desire to win, those things never changed. So why was ancient football so brutal? Because it wasn't really football, at least not in the modern sense. It was part sport, part festival, part battle, and part community event. It reflected the world people lived in, a world with fewer rules, less safety, and far more physical conflict. Over centuries, football evolved alongside society itself. As civilization became more organized, football became more organized too. The game didn't just change. Human society changed with it. And that's the strange part. The world's most popular sport began as something that looked more like controlled chaos than football. A game so dangerous that kings tried to ban it. A game that injured players, destroyed property, and sometimes cost lives. Yet despite all that, people never stopped playing. Because long before football became a business, before it became entertainment, before it became a billion-dollar industry, it was something much simpler. People chasing a ball, together. And perhaps that's why football survived when so many other ancient games disappeared. Because beneath all the rules, trophies, and stadiums, the game is still the same. And that may be the real reason football became the world sport. Goodbye.